You're tuned into Balanced Life. Your Balanced Life podcast with Dr. Chris Byles, a space for people who want more energy, better recovery, calmer days, and long-term health without the hype or confusion.
Here, we talk about nutrition, fitness, stress, habits, hormones, and everyday wellness in a way that feels practical, supportive, and real-life focused. Because supplements aren't the goal, your lifestyle, your strength, and your well-being are. This is about intentional health and a life lived in balance. Welcome to a balanced life. Welcome to a balanced life.
Woo! Yes, welcome to A Balanced Life. My name is Chris Byles, Dr. Chris Byles, and I am your host for this wonderful world of health and wellness that we're going to be talking about all types of everything, right? We're trying to create harmony between the mind and the body and everyday life without pressure, extremes, or perfection. Again, I'm Dr. Chris Byles, and I'm excited you're here. I hold a master's degree in exercise science from PennWest, and I'm currently finishing my doctorate degree. Yes, I'm almost done my doctorate in education, and I'm getting that from Concordia University, and that's going to be in kinesiology, excuse me. So my graduation date is coming up very soon, guys. I'm excited. I hope that wishing me luck as I conclude this journey. It's going to be May 2026, so it's coming right around the corner. Just have to finish some stuff up, have to argue my dissertation, and your boy is a doctor. So don't worry, the medical no medical advice here. So before I begin, let me just throw out my disclaimer. This show is for educational purpose only. No medical advice will be coming from the show at all. All right. So I just want to put that out there. So real quick, as what we want to do for today, we want to kind of give us a dive in what to expect when it comes to the show. What to expect when you come to the show. So if you've ever felt overwhelmed, burnt out, or stuck in an all-out nothing cycle when it comes to your health or your life, this podcast is for you, right? So let's get into it. Why does this podcast exist? Why does it exist? Well, look, I created A Balanced Life because I've seen both personally and professionally what happens when little things like balance is missed, right? Whether it be balanced, like work-life balance, like some people overwork, some people unfortunately don't work enough. Just like whether, what kind of balance you with your fitness, right? Are you lifting weights? Are you also doing cardio? How's your nutrition? Which is nutrition is going to be a big part of that. Like how are all these things, and if they work together, is there balance? And what is missing, right? So one of the things that I've discovered through my experiences and my education is that I've studied how the body responds to stress, training, recovery, and lifestyle habits. And what this research consistently shows above all things is that we are overworked. There's no consistency, right? The thing we have to understand is that progress is not driven by extremes. It's driven by consistency, right? Recovery and sustainability, right? Think about those three things: consistency, recovery, and sustainability, right? I think we totally forget, through our culture, that, we're taught some things that necessarily might have been wrong, right? Unfortunately, we don't want to think about it, but some things that we were taught were wrong, right? Bad approach, such as no pain, no gain, right? Yes, we we want to understand that we want to push the muscle to a certain degree, but pain is a different story because it could cause injury if not knowing how to go through that, right? Right, you don't have to push yourself to those extremes to see results. The amazing thing to me is that we're encouraged to push harder, right? To do more, to rest less, right? That's why we have a situation right now where many people are not getting enough sleep, right? We're no longer getting the 7 to 9 hours of sleep required for us to function properly and to recover and to restore our body and our mental. But now we're sleeping less and less, 4 hours, 3 hours, right? And I've been guilty myself, so I'm not just I'm preaching to the choir also on this, right? Health it's all that, it's all encompassing, right? So, but I've experienced it. I understand what seasons of overtraining and mental fatigue and burnout can do. And I've also seen it in my clients. I've seen it in my just people that I know, colleagues. There's a disconnect between what science supports and what society promotes. That's the biggest reason why this podcast exists. So I want to break down some of those barriers, right? I want to break down what it means to be balanced. I want to break these down, and I want to lift them up and teach them to you. That way you can help out, especially if you're struggling with your fitness journey. Like, how's that going for you? How's your health journey going, right? Don't think that it's all this or that, right? Everything is a balance, right? So one of the biggest misconceptions, right, about balance is that everything in life must receive equal time and energy, right? Right? Equal time and energy to everything. And that's for both from an academic and a practical standpoint. And unfortunately, that's simply not realistic, right? It's not realistic, right? So balance is actually dynamic, right? It changes with your goals, responsibilities, health, status, and your seasons of life, right? Balance is dynamic. It's moving, right? It changes with your goals. What are your goals? Like for fitness, for instance, if 1 minute you want to bulk up, right? Your balance in that is going to be different as opposed to being balanced in what you're working for. If you're training for something like a high rocks, high rocks have been all over the place last couple of months, actually. And they have another one coming up in April out here in Texas. But it's dynamic. So based on whatever your goals are, then that's how balance is, right? From a kinesiology perspective, balance also includes understanding, right? So when your body needs stress versus recovery, when do you need stress, right? Exercise is stress. You're putting stress on your body to elicit results, right? And not all stress is bad. Some stress is good. You have your good stress and you have a bad stress. Now, there's a stress that over time, if we're continually dealing with it, it can cause health problems, okay? Unfortunately, that's just the way it is. But there's some stress like exercise that can actually help your body. But you need to know the difference between stress in that manner and when you're versus recovery. Like, when is it time to recover, right? I have a lot of different thoughts on that, and when I usually tell my clients, but what is the difference? You need to know what that difference is, right? It has to be balanced between those two things, right? Also, how mental health directly impacts physical performance. If you're down in the dumps, your physical performance is not it's not going to be there. How many times have you actually went to a workout and when you didn't feel like it mentally, your workout was different compared to like, oh man, I'm amped for this workout, right? So your mental health, your mental thoughts, things that you're thinking is also going to directly impact your physical performance. That's why athletes have sports psychologists, right? Certain people do certain tricks to try and remove the mind, right? So they can really perform better physically, right? Some people do hypnotism. I've heard of that. I've heard of a lot of different things people do before they compete, like the athletes, the elite athletes. So they're trying to find, right, that they understand that mental health or mental stress can directly impact physical performance, right? Most recently, we had a game, it was during the Cup for NBA, and Wemby from San Antonio Spurs, he had a moment where his grandmother died, I think it was, and it impacted his performance, right? So, that's the extreme of it, and unfortunately, that's a thing of life that happens. But that can also, if you're an athlete or if you're trying to do something physically, can directly impact your physical performance, right? We also need to understand from a kinesiology perspective is that chronic overload, physically or mentally, leads to breakdown, not growth, right? You're breaking yourself down. Your body cannot handle constant overload, chronic overload, physically or mentally. It's going to lead to a breakdown, and you don't want that. Nobody wants that, right? Nobody wants that. But we've all, at some point, either have experienced it personally or know of someone that also has experienced that or has gone through that, right? So this podcast is not passive, right? It's intentional. Having a balanced life, period, is not passive. It's intentional. It's knowing when to push and when to pull back without guilt. If you're reading the Bible, if you ever read the Bible, Ecclesiastes has its profound scripture on that. It's a time for this, it's a time for that. Everything has its time and its place, and that's balance, right? It's not passive, it's intentional, okay? So what is the focus of this podcast? What can you expect as listeners, which I hope you all tune in and come get a part of this balanced life. But anyway, what can you expect from this podcast? So on A Balanced Life, we'll blend evidence-based principles with real-life applications, right? So many topics will include exercise and physical health without extreme approaches, right? So we're going to dive a little bit into that. We see many things we see on social media, such as TikTok and what have you, and we see extreme approaches in exercise and fitness. So we're going to talk about that and try and make it a little more, something more to digest, right? Stress management and mental wellness. We talk about that. How do you manage your stress? How can it help your mental wellness, right? Exercise, side note, is a great way to help balance any type of depression that you may be feeling. Research is showing that more and more psychologists are actually prescribing that as far as their medication. Okay, so exercise is great for stress management, right? We're also going to be, what you could also expect is building sustainable routines, right? What type of routine works for you, right? Are you the one that has to go from one day to the next and not knowing what you're going to do, not knowing your program? We'll talk about that, okay? We also want to talk about preventing burnout through recovery and balance, right? You got to prevent burnout. You got to have recovery and you have to have balance. So important, right? We talk about mindfulness, motivation, long-term behavior change. We'll talk about nutrition. We have all types of different topics that we'll talk about and what you can expect, but will be a little mixture of everything, right? We'll have some educational. Others will be reflective or a conversation. Just talk to me, right? If you have any thing you want to say to me, send me an email. I'll read them on the air. Boom. We'll try and figure it out, okay? But everything I shared here will be grounded in science, right? Experience and compassion. Again, just to let you know, nothing on here is medical advice whatsoever. It's just for educational purposes only. So, again, I'm an education and doctorate education, not medicine. All right. So that's what we're going to be doing. So we want to talk about, this is what I want you to think about. As we go on and we're pursuing a relationship with one another, right? You come into my world, I come into your world for a little bit of time, and we talk about these different things, right? So as we go and we're going to prepare for the next episode, right? So this is just a kind of filler, let you know what we're about. But as we prepare for the next episode, of the first episode, I should say, I want you to think about this over the time period before you come back and hear this next episode, right? I want you to think to yourself, what area of your life feels the most out of balance right now? Right? I'll repeat that. What area of your life feels the most out of balance right now? And what is one small realistic change that you can make? Right? Sorry, that's my dog walking around. Got the toenails. Right? So I want you to think about that, right? You find it, you think about it. We all have to need to change something. Maybe something that you want to change for the better, something you want to remove, whatever. It doesn't have to necessarily always be negative. But wherever your life feels out of balance, and what is one small realistic change that you can make? Research shows that, man, this one small consistent change are far more effective, right? Far more effective than the drastic ones. These overhauls, right? These you got to think about small balance. That begins with awareness, and awareness leads to sustainable action. Okay, so think about that, and we'll talk about that. We'll talk about some other things, but that's mainly what I want to get into. Let you know what we're going to be expecting from this podcast. So, thank you for spending this time with me. If this episode resonated with you, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share a balanced life with someone who needs a reminder that progress doesn't require perfection. Okay? New episodes coming soon, and I'm looking forward to continuing this journey with you.
Your Balanced Life podcast with Dr. Chris Byles, a space for people who want more energy, better recovery, calmer days, and long-term health without the hype or confusion.
Here we